You are listening to the Waking Up to Purpose podcast with Lily Badcock in association with lilybadcock.com. What if every challenge you've ever faced was for a purpose? What if every perceived failure was in fact you stepping ever closer to the life you were born to live? I'm Lily Badcock, and I'm here to let you know that you were born with a divine purpose in your heart. And you're here because you know that's true. The process of awakening can be tough. Fired up and inspired one minute and then overwhelmed and lost the next. I've created this podcast to share with you every aspect of my own journey to purpose, as well as the stories of others who have walked the same path. Fear and doubt can place a lot of uncertainty in our minds, but here's what's true. You are needed. Your story matters. Wake up. Rise up. Together we can. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Waking Up to Purpose podcast. Now, this is exciting because this is a brand new podcast, which actually at the point of recording, it doesn't even exist yet. Nothing has been uploaded as of yet. And it's kind of the evolution on from the Confidence Academy podcast, which was founded in 2017. And my guest today, Katrina Ruth, has been a guest on that podcast. And I just thought of all the people that I would want to interview for this new birthing of the podcast, it would have to be you, because not only have you been so instrumental in my own spiritual growth and awakening and realigning to purpose, but you are really someone who just embodies that themselves in their life, in their business, and in every way. So thank you for being on today, Katrina Ruth. Let's give you a good introduction first of all. So let everybody know who you are, what you do, and then we'll just leap in from there.
All right. Well, it's so exciting, the start of the new podcast, firstly. And such a great name, by the way, Waking Up to Purpose. So it was famously said about me once, well, I'm saying it was famous, it was within my community, which makes it famous, that I do everything and nothing all at once. And one of my long-term community members, Deborah Ann Corbin, said that on a live stream of mine when some random person came on and said, "What do you do anyway? You know, who is this person?" And she said, "Well, we all know that Kat does everything and nothing all at once." And I was like, that's exactly right. That is exactly what I do. I don't really do anything. What do? I do nothing. I sit around just talking shit on the internet all day. And that's truly how I feel a lot of the time. But at the same time, yes, I also do acknowledge that I've created a really successful online business where I get to wake up every day and follow my purpose and do my soul work. And it's a business that's now made over $15 million online. So I guess that's a good jumping off point as far as purpose goes.
It's good enough. It's all right.
It's like every little $15 million counts, right? So I'm paraphrasing a previous mentor of mine actually with that statement. But anyhow, what really matters to me that I do is that I do wake up every day and I get to live my purpose, and what that involves, I guess, to be a little more clear about it for people listening or watching, is that I work with amazing, driven entrepreneurs, messengers, leaders, creators, those who've always known that they're different and that they're born for more. And really, even though it sounds maybe a little bit audacious, would consider themselves the called ones. And what I do with these amazing people like yourself is I flip the switch for the called ones. So I help people to remember who they always were and then become it. And largely I do that through really a lot of very deep mindset work, energy work, just kind of like soul remembrance work, for want of a better expression. And I also teach quite a lot to do with messaging and online business and sales and marketing and that sort of thing, but all really coming from this place of being who you're meant to be in the world and connecting into soul and creating business and life from that place. And I do that with lots of different low cost or medium cost products and programs and courses. I've launched hundreds of courses over the years, and I have a lot of free content as well. And I also do some high ticket client work. So kind of got my fingers in lots of pies.
Love it. And yeah, I mean, I've been a fan and a client and just in your world since I think it was 2016. So
I was about a year into my online journey, and you know, I'd kind of gone down the path that everybody goes down of trying to tick all the boxes and trying to do it all right. And the thing that I love about you, that's always been the case, and actually it's been the case since I found you, it's still the case today, and even now when I watch videos and trainings of yours that were recorded even before I was in your world, it was the case then as well. It's never changed. You've always been so certain in as much as everything I've seen and read and heard, so certain in who you are and what you do. And the thing I love about it is it doesn't always follow that cookie cutter, well, it hardly ever follows that cookie cutter pathway that is laid out. And I think, you know, the audience on this podcast are going to be people who have maybe tried that already. They've tried to do all the things that people say to do, that they think they have to do to be the person they have to be. And this is the conversation that I really wanted to have with you today, because I think certainly for my journey, I got the concept initially of, oh cool, I can be whatever I want, that's awesome, that sounds great. And then I very quickly fell into an idea of what I thought that should be. So I've told this story before, but I very quickly fell into the trap of, I want a business on the beach, and I want my laptop lifestyle, and I'm going to go to Bali, and you know what I mean, like the things that everybody talks about. And for the longest time, I was feeling frustrated because I wasn't getting anywhere with that, and I really thought I wanted it, and I really thought that that's what it was. And then I can't remember which of your trainings it was, but it was one of the programs I bought. And we were doing this journal work like you do with all of your programs, but something switched. And it was like somebody tapped me on the shoulder and was like, no, you can actually have what you want. Like, it can actually be what you feel. It doesn't have to look any kind of way. So could you talk a little bit about how do people move out of that? How do we get away from just wanting what we think we should have? I think it comes from people know what they want, and then they think they have to be a certain kind of person to get it. And then they actually turn away from who they truly are.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things going on there. Firstly, you know, unless you had some kind of basically unheard of upbringing where you were just taught from day dot to follow intuition and soul guidance on everything in life, which I guess some people maybe did have that upbringing, but not most people I know, then there's quite a lot of conditioning that's just there, and not to put the blame on anybody for that at all, and also not even to be kind of like fuck the system or something like that, but just to realize that it's kind of how life goes, that we're either directly or indirectly continually, since we're really tiny, being told no, not like that, or no, that's too much, or that's too loud, or, you know, quieten down, or be a good little girl or be a good little boy, in whatever way, shape or form that kind of comes out, and often can be with really good intentions, and sometimes maybe not so, but either way, that's kind of how it goes. And then, you know, even if somebody grew up where they grew up in what I often call it, oh, you grew up in the wrong school of life by mistake. You know, like, that's a shame. You accidentally grew up in the school of life where you're told that you're too much, you're too loud, you're, you know, not appropriate, you know, you've got to do it this way, and so on and so forth. Imagine if you grew up in a way where, you know, the school of life that you grew up in was, hey, whatever you feel inside of you is real, it's available now, you literally can't screw it up if you're being you. You know, there's nothing about you that could ever be inappropriate or wrong. In fact, the more of the madness, the better. Even if you grew up that way, you still, you know, we're all human, and we have obviously that kind of part of us that naturally, just from being human, is going to, like, the voice of fear, or I call it the voice of the devil sometimes, but that part of us that's going to question our own natural instincts, and whether or not we've been conditioned to do that by anyone else, or whether it just comes from within. Either way, it's something that for most humans, we've learned to do life from a place of actually following that fear-based voice, or the voice of whoever it is that you perceive as being in authority, or that you respect, or whatever, or that you think you need to be like. And it's just kind of all mushed together. So when you first embark on a journey of, I guess, returning to soul, or having some kind of conscious awareness of I'm going to actively really choose that I get to be me now. You know, maybe you came and like learned from somebody like me or you or so many amazing people on the internet now who do really speak truth on this stuff. So you, or you read a book or whatever it might be, and you know, maybe you made a choice. Okay, this makes sense to me. I'm going to follow my own pathway. I'm going to back myself. I'm going to give myself permission to be me, because I can just see and feel that there's really no other way that I would want to do it, and there's also no other way that I really believe it would work. Even still, there will need to be, as you've experienced yourself, a kind of an almost daily practice, pretty much daily practice in some way, shape or form, of actually taking the time to tune in and connect in. Because if you're not intentionally, consciously, connecting into, okay, well, what would that look like today, or in this situation, or in this moment, to back myself, to be me, to follow my own, you know, the beat of my own drum, to kind of ignore all the rules or the shoulds or whatever, unless you're doing that day by day in some way, shape or form, then you're naturally just going to take action from a place of essentially your own conditioned past and pathway up until that moment, mixed together with whatever the general consensus is of the kind of like the collective or the community that you most align with, or that you most look up to, or that you most feel inferior to, or whatever it is that has authority over you for, you know, any reason that could be good or bad. So even if it's good reasons, it's still, well, that's not you. That's not your intuition. That's not your soul. That's not you coming from what's inside of you. So just as a continual daily practice, to take even like a moment or a breath in, you know, a little flicker of time to just, okay, let me connect back into myself. Okay, I'm going to create from that place. And, you know, I guess part of it, the other part of it that I want to reference is, it's also about letting go of attachment and letting go of kind of like this overly tight, held on to need to have to be there already. Like, okay, I want to do business by being myself. Okay, I have to do business by being myself. Okay, I better make sure that I'm being myself. And it's like, well, that's not how it would work in any normal situation in life. And it also doesn't work that way in business. So, you know, as hard as it can be, you do have to find a way to actually kind of be chill and be okay with it just unfolding in the time that it unfolds.
Yeah, and I love that. And I was going to ask you actually about, what would you say to someone who, because I find this a lot with the people that tend to work with me, they tend to be people who they were on their path, like they really did find the thing that lit them up. They found the thing that they were really good at, and then something has happened that has taken them off of that path. In some cases it's like even health issues, or their life has flipped on its head. And so I wanted to definitely talk to you about that. I wanted to talk to you about the faith piece. I know that through you, I've been brought back to faith. And the beautiful thing about it is I was brought up on faith. My parents are very religious, my dad especially. And, you know, a few years ago, I lost all connection to that faith. I started to question it all. And I think we all go through this. It's almost like a rite of passage. We all get to a point where we're like, hang on a minute, what's all this stuff I've been told? I don't know if I actually believe that anymore. I don't know if that fits for me. I had so many questions where so many of the things I'd been told that I had just grown up just believing because I'd been told to believe it suddenly didn't fit. And I lost faith completely. And through your work, and I also want to reference Amanda Francis because her work as well, and other things too, I've come back to this place of absolute grounded faith. And people are noticing it as well. I get people now messaging me saying, you're so certain of who you are, how did you get there? So I want to reference that faith piece, because sometimes, in fact I think many times, the path doesn't end up looking the way we think it's going to. And in so many cases, the path we were on somehow gets trapped. We somehow get trapped, or we get stuck, or we get rerouted in another direction. So can we just talk a little bit about that, about, you know, your journey with faith and how that plays a part, and how somebody can reconnect to who they are when who they thought they were isn't that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to that faith is a practice, and it's also just a choice. It's not like a lot of people think, even though they don't probably actually think about it. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. So people seem to live with the idea that faith, trust, that these are things that you can feel, and if I don't feel it, then I don't have it. And for me, the biggest breakthrough around that was realizing it's just a choice. It literally can be an emotionless choice, which sounds weird, and I'm not suggesting like living from a place of being a robot internally and not having emotion, but at the same time, I actually think that is part of the journey, because like everyone basically is conditioned to just react to their own fear mind and to the world around and so on. And so part of that transition of getting to where you have a very deep connectedness to self and soul and God and energy that goes beyond the physical world and supernatural and so on it is a practice, and it is absolutely something that's attainable for anybody with practice and with intent. But oftentimes that first kind of bridge or leap is like doing it even when you can't feel it. And really the definition of faith is taking action or having some kind of choice or action or momentum or whatever, even when it's well beyond the realms of what seems logical or possible or whatever. So it kind of is like faith by definition is doing it when you can't feel it, or believing something even when you can't feel it. But yet so many people seem to think that, or if I felt connected to faith or God, or if I felt like I could trust, or if I felt, clear on what my intuition was saying, then I could live that way. And it's like, no, you got it wrong. How are you going to get to that level of certainty and groundedness in who you are? Is that you showed up as though you already had that, and you showed up from a place of acting on faith when you truly couldn't feel it. And so every day, and I think anyone who's really got to that place that you mentioned, every day for at least a period of time really had to be a day of once again leaping naked off the cliff while blindfolded, with your hands tied, with no freaking clue what's beneath. And if you can't be willing to do that and to just continually like kind of throw yourself into the fray and trust that the emotion and the energy and the feeling of trust or safety or whatever will catch up, then you'll never get there. Because ultimately, I mean, how life works is that fear wants to sway us from path. It wants to keep us bound and reactive to it, and reactive to the conditioned ideas of how limiting or tough or whatever life should be. If you want to break free of that, then you have to be willing to be completely different in your behavior to the typical person. And that does come down to, I'm going to act on the idea of something inside of me that I cannot even feel, but deep down I know it's there. And so I'm going to trust that if I just keep doing this kind of like fly naked blindfolded off a cliff thing every day, then at some point it's going to click in. And all I can do in the meanwhile every day is, as best as possible, seek to tune in on, well, from what I can tell and from what I can feel, with the so far limited access that I have to intuition or soul or whatever, then what would my move be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that.
And being willing to follow that guidance, even if you feel like, but maybe that's not it, and then that makes no sense because of this, and then everybody else is doing that. Like, no, you have to be willing to do it anyway, every single day. And then, eventually you get to the point which you just described, which is the point that I've been at for years as well, where you just, like, in every decision, in every part of your life, you just have freaking certainty and you're completely unshakable. It doesn't mean shit won't happen. It doesn't mean you won't get knocked around from time to time, but you know where your fucking core is and it comes from within. So that's, like, you can't put a price on that, but you also can't, you literally can't put a price on it. You have to create it and earn it.
Absolutely. That's it. It's the perception, isn't it? It's seeing it through that different lens. And I think this was a question I really wanted to get to with you today, because obviously you're someone that, to the outside, I was going to say to the naked eye, but to the outside world, or to anyone looking in, you're someone who, through your own teachings and through your own work, you've documented your journey from being so disconnected and so lost and so you know, searching for what it was to now living this life, and you have the business, you have the money, you have such a beautiful relationship with your kids, and you know, you have all of these things. So in so many ways and to so many people, you've got there, you've got to that place that so many people are trying to get to. The question I want to ask you is, what is surprising to you now that you're Katrina Ruth and you've got your business and you're, you know, you've got all of, you've checked a lot of the boxes, and what is surprising to you? What was your perception back then, back before you had this level of connectedness and this level of success? What was your perception of how this would feel, and what is now surprising to you now that you're here?
You know, that is a very unique question that I don't think I've ever been asked anything like that before, which is cool, hey? Yes. It's a great question. So it's kind of like a two-part question. What my perception would have been, if I would think back, I would have definitely assumed that like to have this money results and lifestyle results, and like you said, like I did the thing, right? I got there. I have been for a while now, quite a long while, and it just keeps getting better and better. I would have thought that I would have kind of like felt like I fully had all my shit together or something. I would have thought, yeah, like I would have imagined some kind of like really perfect proper Stepford type life. And I would have certainly thought that internally I would just be like so confident all the time and not have massive insecurities or doubts about myself as a woman or as a person, or even as an entrepreneur. And I know that sounds a little in contrast to what we just talked about, but that's the thing with having certainty, right? Is that it comes from a deeper place, and when you shift beneath the human emotions and whatever crazy stuff goes to your mind, the certainty is there and it's always accessible. And so for me, I create everything from that place. I make my decisions and take my actions from that place. But on top of that, the surface is I'm like as human as fuck as I ever was, and maybe more, because I'm probably like more in tune, right? Well, I am significantly more in tune. So I just feel everything. And I have the same exact, like, ridiculous, I can recognize the crazy in them, but I still feel insecurities and doubts and stuff where I just feel like a silly little girl and socially awkward, or often like I feel like I don't really know how to deal with a human situation, like maybe something uncomfortable happened and I don't know what to do about it and what move I should make. And there's so many times where I feel like, yeah, that silly little girl who's not good enough side is still there, but I have access to the certainty beneath it, and so my actions come from that place. But yeah, if you would have said that, I would have thought that to make millions and millions of dollars and buy your dream house by the beach and not just the money, but to have everything in place really that you wanted and that you value on an intrinsic level in faith and family and just all the things, I would have truly thought you wouldn't still be dealing with all that fucking shit. But it's like, you know, it just keeps going in waves. It just keeps coming back up. And it's kind of cool though. I think the difference is you learn to roll with it though. Like I recognize it now and I roll with it and I see it for what it is. So it's kind of like if you go out into the ocean one day, it might be flat and calm. And then other days you're like, what the fuck? I'm getting bashed around all over the place here. Like all these waves are coming at me. Well, you'd have to be a pretty crazy person to take it personally and be like, oh my God, I'm clearly not good enough for the ocean. The ocean hates me. I'm not worthy. I'm clearly stupid. You just go, okay, this is the weather today. Let's roll with it. So that's the difference. Like I'll feel all those things, but I'll kind of be like, all right, I guess this is the state of the weather inside of my head today. I'm not going to make it mean something. But then the other part of the question, like what surprised me or what would surprise me, the big thing that I would say, I really just love this question because I've truly never thought about this before, but the big thing that feels surprising is how available it is and always was. And like everything I have or have created now, or like new big exciting things that I'm personally currently stepping into, for example, it's like mind blowing as you step into each new level to just go, well, if I'm honest about it, I truly could have chosen that 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Like, it was actually never out of reach. And the only reason I didn't have it sooner was because I didn't decide to choose it sooner. And that to me is mind blowing, because I think we all walk around with an idea that to be like that level or do that thing or be in that room of people or whatever, clearly I've got to like elevate my shit in all these different ways. And it's 100% not true. And that continues to blow my mind. Like, even with, some really huge, big stuff that's on the table for me right now, business wise, I'm just like part of me feels like that silly little girl that's not good enough. Like, oh, I'm going to be found out that I don't really know what I'm doing. And then the other part of me is like, well, shit, this was so available and I just put it on a pedestal and thought that it wasn't available.
Yeah, that is so true. It's so true. And I love that answer. And I love that I found a question that you haven't been asked before. Yes.
Never.
You
better watch out. You should trademark that question. Everyone will start asking in interviews all the time.
So let it be known here and now that I asked it first.
That is Lily's question. If I get asked that question again, I'm reporting it.
Yeah, do it. We'll get a trademark on that, absolutely. But I think the thing I love about that answer and what I really wanted to bring forward from that question was, so many of us, and I still do it now, we put our goals or our whatever level we're getting to so far out of reach, and we tell ourselves that we're not there, and we tell ourselves that we're so far away and that for all the different reasons it's not going to come yet. And we even tell ourselves that, you know, maybe struggle is necessary first or whatever. Like, I definitely think there are lessons to be learned, but it's so true, because when those things click, you literally go, well, what, I could have done that yesterday or last year or even 10 years ago. And for a few minutes you can maybe be a bit peed off that you didn't, and then you just then it comes back to faith. It's like it was never meant to happen 10 years ago. I wasn't the same person.
But it's also really like, okay, well, if all that's true, and it is, and if you're listening, like, I'm sure you would have felt that thing in your soul, like a resonance where you know that what we just discussed was true, then you have to have some accountability to go look in the mirror and be like, well, if I believe that, if I'm willing to have faith to believe that, and I can feel in my soul that that's true, then what rooms do I need to decide to put myself in right now? Which flags do I need to plant? You know, which decisions do I need to make about this is who I am? Oh, who said so? Or how come you're allowed to be? Because I decided to. The end. And are you willing to do that? Like, really, most people won't be willing to do it. That's just the cold hard reality. So why don't you be the one exception, you know?
Exactly that. And, you know, and I wanted to reference, like, we need to wrap up now because I know we're out of time, but, you know, even if people listening to this podcast, and I know it's going to happen because it happened on the last one, I get people messaging me feeling like they are somehow removed from me, going, oh my God, like, you know, they treat you like you're on some pedestal or that you're so far away from them. And I mean, I've got to tell you, literally up to 30 seconds before we went live on this podcast, I was up to my elbows changing a pooey nappy. Like, you know, my kid isn't even dressed downstairs. I don't even know the last time we ate. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much over here that it's like I've got a baby hanging off my boob as I speak. Like, there's no like cookie cutter way that it has to be. You're either going to be the person or you're not, and you can accept your circumstances and move forward anyway, or you can sit and bellyache about the fact that you weren't handed the cards. Like, you grabbed the cards. I think this is what I'm learning more and more as I go along. Like, it doesn't have to be a certain way. It doesn't have to look any sort of way. And what feels really exciting for me right now is there seems to be a shift. I think in the years gone by, it's been a very, like, all of the, you know, spiritual development and self-development has been very much guru-led. It's been very much, this person is up here and they figured it out. And if you're really lucky, you might figure it out too. And what I love about you and what I love about the people that are emerging are, we're coming from the trenches. It's like, yo, I'm down here with you, but look, I figured this thing out. Maybe that will help you. But in this area over here, like, I'm still growing, and that's the beauty of it. There is nowhere to get to before you can find your worth. I think that's what we need to get to at the end.
Yeah, totally. And I also think that those things are not just like, oh, you can somehow do it anyway in spite of having a baby hanging off your boob or whatever else is going on. but that's actually part of it. It's just, well, you being all of you, like all of the messy mayhem that's going on in whatever phase of your life you're in. Like it's not just something you can somehow kind of get away with and still be successful. It's part of why people are going to be attracted to you and want to, you know, come into your world. I mean, gosh, I hear it nearly every day that somebody's buying my programs because I've talked quite openly about how I built my business with, you know, the little babies underfoot or whatever. And I let it be messy. I mean, I tried to make it like clean and polished and professional for a while, and that was fucking exhausting. And I just knew deep down that that's not the way. And so then I gave in and let all the madness out, whether it's with kids or whether it's whatever else. And that's what people love, right? Like they're going to reference that a lot and be like, oh, it's so inspiring how you do it. Like so many people would think you can't record a podcast interview with a baby running around. Yeah. Well, why not though? Who said? Like, who is this podcast for? For robots? Like, yeah, it's just exactly. So funny. So a lot of the rules that really, as you said, are being broken down in this industry, but there's still so many people who do buy into that stuff and just wouldn't even dream of it. And it's like, what an exhausting way to live. It would kind of be like dating where you always were putting on some kind of, you know, fake persona, you know, you then have to like live with that shit.
Exactly that. Yeah, it gets really tiring holding up the mask. And I mean, I realized recently that the very first program of yours I bought because I found you live streaming in the dark, in a bikini, drinking wine from the bottle. I think you were in Bali at the time.
I was in Bali for a wedding and I was outraged at so many things, which is why I sat there and did a live stream drinking wine directly out of the bottle.
But I remember watching that, like it was late. It was like 1 a.m. here or something. It was the middle of the night. I think I'd probably been out with one of the kids and I just clicked and I knew who you were. I'd seen you around, but I think that was the first time I'd actually watched anything of yours. And I think this is what's telling. I can't remember now what you were selling. I can't remember now what I thought I needed at the time. All I can remember was in the middle of the night when I was feeling like everything was falling apart. I found this chick on my Facebook that was swinging wine from a bottle in Bali in a bikini, looking hot, by the way. And I was like, I want to be like her. Like, I want to be this chick when I grow up, you know? And that was all it was. Like, so all of this stuff that they say about find the pain point of your client. And I'm sure that works on some level. But what worked for me was I just saw myself in you. I was like, that's who I want to be. Or that, not even that's who I want to be. I honestly think that's who I would be. If you put me in a bikini in Bali, there'd be a few extra wobbly bits, but I would be the same. I'd be doing the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny, Lara. Just remember that live stream quite vividly. And yeah, it's so funny. There's so many stories like that people tell me where I think to myself, wow, imagine I just didn't do that live stream, because so many times when I go live or I do whatever content that I do, I nearly didn't do it. Like the Wi-Fi there was really bad, and I really nearly didn't do it because I didn't think it would work with the Wi-Fi. And the kids and my husband at the time and me were all in this one tiny bed. So they were like in the bed, and there was a wedding the next day that I didn't want to be at, but I'd promised I would be at. Now that's right. We were already broken up in our marriage, but I agreed to still go to his best friend's wedding in Bali. That's why I was shitty about being there.
Oh, right.
Yes, it was like a super awkward situation. And the whole thing was just like so dramatic. And I nearly didn't go live because I just, probably wasn't in like the greatest mood or whatever. And then imagine if I hadn't though, well, maybe you would have found me some other way. But it's always so interesting to think about, because really a lot of what I teach is just, like, let it be easy. You never need to think about anything. At any point in time, you can just turn on the camera or write something and don't worry about whether or not it's good enough. Like, I remember thinking that this is going to be the worst live stream in the history of time. The Wi-Fi is going to be crap. I'm in a bikini. I'm drinking wine out of the bottle. Not because I wanted to drink out of the bottle. I think there was no glasses anyway. They were locked up in the cabinet and the staff of the villa had already left. And I was like, that'd be right. Well, I guess I'm just drinking. That was the mood I was in.
Give me a straw.
Anyway, yeah, there you go. I don't know what lessons people are going to take from that random little story, but that was the story.
No, I love it. And I just think it's absolutely perfect. And when I think about the transformation that's happened for me as a result of that, it just tells you all you need to know.
Oh,
Thank you so much. We need to wrap it up there. I could literally talk for hours, but we'll wrap it up there.
Right.
We'll keep it succinct. It's not like me. In fact, I have gone over a little bit, so that's okay. I feel like it would have been worrying if I'd started on time and finished on time.
Such a great interview, though. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on. Thank you so much. Just really quickly, let people know how they can find you if they want to follow you and have the same transformation.
Yeah, now I actually might even be able to tell people a link if they want to get my video series, because usually I never know what it is, but I'm just scrolling WhatsApp because I asked my brother for it earlier today. So, you can find me easily on Facebook or Instagram, usual places. I'm pretty accessible. I like to have a conversation and a chat and hear what's going on, so I don't feel like you shouldn't message me or whatever. Quite the opposite. But if you do want a little bit more from me, you can either join my Facebook group, which is called Daily Ask Kickery for Revolutionary Fucking Leaders, and that's my free group. Or you can go to my website, thekatrinaruthshow.com, and you'll find my free 4-part video series, which is called Everything You Know About Success is Wrong. And it's for either just life and soul-changing videos, or alternatively could be 4 videos that will terrify you and make you think that I'm the most inappropriate person in the world. So either way, we'll find out whether you need to continue the journey.
Exactly that. I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit of all of it, but that's awesome. And we'll definitely put those links in the show notes as well. Kat, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you back on again.
You're so welcome. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And here we go. It's time for a cheesy sign-off. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to join me and my awesome community in our free Facebook group, Wake Up, Rise Up, go and check out the link in the show notes below. Don't forget, every Friday you can join me in that group for a live Q&A, and I also stream that on Instagram. All of the links you'll need are in the show notes for this episode. If you loved the show, please go to iTunes, leave me a comment and a review, and share with anyone you know who might love it too. And in the meantime, have an awesome day and keep shining. It's time.